All right. Thank you so much for attending Nomads Embassy and partnered with Residency Malta Agency's webinar about Malta's Nomad Residence Permit. We are welcoming our first attendees. So first, as we wait for more people to show up for the webinar, I'm going to do a brief introduction. My name is Brittany. I am co-founder of Nomads Embassy, and we have partnered with Residency Malta Agency, who created the Nomad Residence Permit to promote this great opportunity for remote workers. Today in this 1-hour webinar, we have the CEO of Residency Malta, Charles Mizzi.
Hi.
We have Daniel Thompson, a digital nomad who applied for the Nomad Residence Permit and turned Maltese resident. So we are excited to hear his story.
Hello.
And lastly, we have Russell Muscat from Heritage Malta, who will be sharing the history and the benefits of Malta and its beautiful landscapes. And he has a nice video to show us to get you excited to come to Malta and apply for the Nomad Residence Permit.
Hi.
All right. We're just going to wait a couple more minutes for everybody to arrive. I also want to remind our attendees that there's a chat that you can ask your questions. There will be a Q&A at the end. So throughout the presentation, the webinar, you can write down your questions. We'll go through them and answer as many as we can. So as we wait for all of our guests to arrive, we still have 2 minutes before the webinar officially starts, time-wise. I'd love to ask our panelists what their favorite thing about Malta is. What is one thing that you want to share with the world about Malta that you appreciate, that you love? Charles, let's start with you.
I think the fact that despite we're a small country, there are so many things that one can do. So in 1 minute, you can go to watch a play or a concert. In 30 minutes time, you can be at the beach. So I think the close proximity of our island and the fact that you have a lot of activities happening at the same time, it's something which sometimes we take for granted. This is something which attracts a lot of people as well.
Yes, I can vouch for that. We had the opportunity to go to Malta last year, and while it is a tiny island, it is packed with so many things to do, to see, and to enjoy. So definitely one of the most interesting countries that we've been to. Daniel, why don't you share a little bit about what you love about Malta?
You know, I'm a history buff. And one thing we do know is that for almost 10,000 years, for sure, people have been coming to this island, staying on this island, leaving this island. And that's what I really appreciate, because I have family and friends spread all around Europe. And being able to get on a plane, nonstop flight, I'm wherever I need to be in 2.5 hours, it really makes this island, even though it's physically distant from northern mainland Europe, feel like it's so metropolitan. It's charming, and I think it's also something that people don't realize when they think about coming to Malta, how easy it is to get here and to get around the island.
Yeah, the public transportation is fantastic. The bus routes, they'll get you anywhere and everywhere you need to be on the island. And then the ferry going from Malta to Gozo, super convenient as well. And Russell?
I think the diversity of cultural products here on the island, from cultural like history and cultural heritage, but not just, but the amount of activities that, especially during the summertime, the amount of diverse activities that you find on the island. And to combine what both Charles and Daniel said, sort of the fact that Malta is small, you can in the morning be at the beach, in the evening going to a cultural activity, go to a museum, or here go to a concert, or and then go out and enjoy yourself, all within a matter of a few minutes. And I think the amount of stuff on the island, me being in the cultural sector, I can vouch for it. And maybe I can say that it's a bit too much for me. But really, I mean, there's a lot of things to do and to say. And it connects us with not just with the world around us. As Daniel said, I mean, we are very close to each other, but through revisiting the historical items that we have on the island, you realize how Malta was a metropolitan since about 5,000 years ago, from the diversity of its cultural objects, such as, I don't know, prehistoric ornaments coming from all over the Mediterranean, showing how much trade and commerce and was happening to and from the different corners of the Mediterranean, to the diversity of this stuff that you will find over here. So
wonderful, thank you. All right, so let's officially start the Malta webinar about the Nomad Residence Permit. So our first speaker is Mizzi. Again, he's the CEO of Residency Malta. So to start off our conversation, can you give us a brief description about what the Nomad Residence Permit is?
So first of all, thank you, Brittany, for this opportunity. It's a pleasure for us to speak to you and give some information about this program, and as well about Malta and sort of how it appeals to digital nomads. So basically, the idea of digital nomads started around 2 years ago. To be honest, sort of, we didn't reinvent the wheel. The digital nomad community already existed on the island, but it was mainly at that point in time comprised of Europeans who were residing in Malta and working remotely from here. So at that point in time, there was some noise already about digital nomads and how this community is growing so rapidly. So basically, what we did is we opened the doors to even more people to come by providing a residence permit to third country nationals. So those people coming from outside EU member states who wanted to come to Malta to work from here. Malta, the expat community here on the island is very big. In fact, 1 in every 5 residents in Malta is an expat.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, there is a long history, which Daniel made reference to. So I think it was quite easy for us to attract these kinds of people. Obviously, at that point in time, also the COVID restrictions started to ease, and so people had more and more appetite to travel around. So it was the ideal option, or sort of for us to roll out that program and basically facilitate the process to start attracting this kind of audience.
Wonderful. And so, what are some of the benefits of the Nomad Residence Permit? Why would a remote worker want to apply for this program?
So to start with the technical benefits. So when one becomes a Nomad Residence Permit holder, he or she starts benefiting from sort of a 1-year residence permit that allows it to reside in Malta and work remotely from here, which can eventually be renewed for up to 3 years. The residence permit also allows the beneficiary to benefit from visa-free travel across the Schengen area. We do acknowledge that these individuals would love to explore other countries. So although we would love them to remain here as much as possible, We also give them the opportunity to travel, even to explore other countries, especially Europe. However, over the past 2 years, we have noticed and we have learned that most of these individuals actually reside and live here for the whole period, apart obviously from some short holidays, because they fall in love with the island and they remain here. So these individuals then have a lot of additional benefits, let's say, so which are mainly linked to what Malta has to offer, why it is so attractive to digital nomads. In Malta, we have a very advanced digital infrastructure with sort of very good broadband internet coverage across the whole country. We have around 400 free public Wi-Fi hotspots. So literally you can pick up your laptop, go to the beach, and you start working from there, or go to in a cafe and stay working from there. I also would like to refer to what Daniel said, sort of we have a very well connected airport. So literally in 2 to 3 hours, you are in the one of the sort of nicest capitals in Europe. It's easy to come to Malta and also to explore other countries. English is one of our official languages, so it's easy to communicate. And sometimes we take these things for granted. So we've heard cases where people were living in other countries. They, for example, they needed to go to hospital, but they couldn't communicate with the hospital staff, with the doctors and nurses. So it's quite an awkward situation. In our case, it's literally not the case, because I would say over 90%, 98% of the people living here do speak the English. We have a multicultural environment, world-class healthcare services, and obviously we have a very nice climate. So we always boast about the fact that we have 300 days of sunshine in Malta. So these are all benefits that one can avail themselves of. There are other things which most probably both Daniel and Russell will refer to them later on in their sort of interventions.
Wonderful. Yeah, so many benefits to working remotely in Malta. Another question that we would like to discuss with you. So when people are applying for visas, we know it can be a little overwhelming, and there could be a lot of miscommunication about the documents that you need and the visa requirements. So we'd love to hear from the source, what are the eligibility requirements from the for the Nomad Residence Permit, and what are some of the documents that applicants must submit?
The process is quite easy and straightforward. It's all done online. So people to benefit obviously need to have an employment that allows them to work remotely. Obviously, otherwise it would be called remote working. So here we are talking about non-EU nationals who will be eligible for this permit. They can fall in one of the 3 different categories. They could either be employed with a company registered abroad, or else they would be self-employed. They are managing their own business from Malta, or else be freelancers or consultants. They must be 18 years and over, and earn at least 32,400 euros per annum. They can also come here with their families. This is something which is really interesting. Apart from originally we thought that we would have sort of the younger generation, people who are coming out of university who wanted to travel and they enjoy that sort of that period in their life. But in reality, we're very positively surprised that we're also attracting family units, people who come with their families, with their young children, to live and work from Malta. There are some other documentations that we request, like the employment contract, the last salary slips. So nothing out of this world. Obviously, they need to have a valid passport, otherwise they wouldn't be able to travel. What we do recommend is that eventually they get in touch with us. We have a dedicated team who will answer to any queries and guide these individuals and help them to apply and to facilitate the process.
Okay. Now, a lot of people, a lot of nomads are concerned about if they apply, that their application will be rejected. What are some common reasons that you have had to reject applications in the past?
Obviously, each application goes through a due diligence process. So, because we need to make sure that obviously these individuals are worthy individuals, they have of good reputation. We are very proud to say that we're attracting a lot of talented individuals, high quality individuals, people who have made success in their home country, and now they want to move to Malta. Overall, the absolute majority of the individuals meet the criteria and are of sort of talented and of good reputation. However, most of the applications are rejected because they don't meet the eligibility criteria. We screen the applications, and if we find out that they do not meet those eligibility criteria which I mentioned, we stop the application there and then. If there is some missing documentation, we guide them on the process to help them to facilitate the process. Obviously, we do have some other instances where through due diligence we find out that, for example, they had some issues with police, etc., and sort of we reject that application based on those instances.
Okay, thank you. And as a reminder to our viewers, you can always find the eligibility requirements, the most up-to-date eligibility requirements at nomadsembassy.com. And my last question for you, Charles, for today's webinar is, what positive impacts have digital nomads had on Malta since the program has started?
As I said, we were positively surprised. The results have been very good. I think we're beyond expectation. Just to mention some of the main highlights, is one of them is the fact that we are attracting people from literally all over the world. So if we have people coming from the UK, from the US, from Asia, from Africa, Australia. So we're reaching people from all over the world. They are of very good quality. The average income, that although we ask for sort of to provide us proof, they earn at least 30,400. They earn an average of around 84,000 euros, which shows sort of the quality of the application of the applicants we're attracting. The absolute majority of them are all graduates with postgraduate degrees. Some of them are in C positions. We have sort of entrepreneurs who are applying. 29% of them come with their family. So it's a really interesting mix of individuals. And what's also interesting is that around 72% of these individuals are actually renewing their application after we confirm that they have actually stayed in the country. So that is proof enough that they are really residing on the island, and obviously they are helping to boost the local economy because they are staying here. So we estimated that around 500 individuals actually inject around 16 million euro in the local economy. But obviously, as time goes by, the number of applications is increasing month on month. So in the next few months and years, we are expecting sort of to have a much more positive contribution on the local economy.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing this information with us, Charles. Okay, and so if you have any questions about the Nomad Residence Permit or about what Charles just spoke about, we do have the Q&A chat, and we have staff from Residency Malta Agency currently answering your questions in that chat. So if we don't get to your question during the webinar, you can refer back to those written answers. All right, and our next guest is a digital nomad turned Maltese resident himself, Mr. Daniel Thompson. Thank you so much for being here. Can you start out with a little introduction and tell us maybe why you chose Malta and your journey to becoming a resident?
Sure, but first I have to practice. Jina Twilit America. So I'm taking Maltese language lessons. It's hard, but I think it's important. I guess my journey, you could say, started 23 years ago when I left the US to pursue studies in Germany. And, you know, as a young person, life takes its own path. I became a father, I graduated, entered the cultural sector, worked on open source software, and, you know, I mean, I'll spare you the gory details, but fast forward to the COVID, and I was a resident of France at the time. My relationship fell apart, and I needed something new. And as the lockdown started to ease, I just started traveling because no one could. And it was exciting to have everything that you had in your 2 suitcases and a backpack and just picking where to go next. And, you know, at that point, I'd started a company in Ireland and was interested in moving to Ireland, but it turns out, and I didn't know this at the time, but Ireland is not part of Schengen. And so even though I'd been traveling around and living in Europe for almost 2 decades at that point, you still learn something new about Europe all the time. And as my business visa was expiring in Ireland, I remembered I have this friend in Malta. He said he's really excited about helping digital nomads move here. Well, I'll just go visit him. I hopped on an airplane from Cork to Malta, and I instantly fell in love. This island has this kind of charming ruggedness. I compare it sometimes with this mixture of Napoli and Hamburg. So you kind of have this like old character, rugged Mediterranean area with people who have a very deep sense of identity and self and a long history. And I just loved the sunlight. It was, like Charles said, always sunny, not in Philadelphia, in Malta. And I thought, well, I mean, I've been traveling nonstop for like 6 months. Maybe I'll just wash all my clothes and see what it's like to be here. And I'll just look at an apartment. And literally 7 days later, I was signing a rental agreement with the apartment. And then I realized, well, I have to figure out what's up with my next residency because, like I said, you know, I was a French resident, but I have to maintain, you know, continuous residency. And I looked into the digital nomad program, and it seemed that it would really suit me.
Wonderful. Yeah, the sun in Malta truly is incredible. It really makes you more productive and happier, in my opinion.
Well, stay hydrated and moisturized. That's my advice for everyone out there coming to Malta.
And so as someone who went through the actual application process, we, as nomads, were very aware that bureaucracy can be complicated, especially when it comes to residency and visas. And so the beauty of the Nomad Residence Permit is the simplicity of the application process, compared to others where you might have to go visit an embassy or a consulate. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience applying for the Nomad Residence Permit?
I've never had an experience like this. Customer care for me seemed like suddenly I'm no longer someone trying to steal a working job from a resident. I felt like I was welcome here and I was supported really, literally every step of the way. And I think with good cause, because, you know, other countries where I've had this kind of process, Germany, France, 2 to 3, sometimes 4 months, and you're really put at the back of the line. I mean, when I compare it to my experience with the Identity Malta service, which was still way faster than I expected, like 6 weeks, with the Key Employee Initiative was amazing for me, but there was a lot of DIY involved. We at my company had to figure out, okay, how do we do this? And we had to do things several times. And it was really a pleasure working with the customer care department at Residency Malta. I can't recommend it enough.
Wonderful. That's excellent news for digital nomads everywhere.
Hmm.
And so as someone who has lived in, I'm sorry, how many years have you lived in Malta now?
I arrived, I guess it must have been 2021, I think. So like a year and a half by now, give or take, almost 2 years.
And so what does a typical day in Malta look like for you as someone working there, living there, and integrating themselves into the culture?
It depends on the season. I think in summertime, my daily planning changes a little bit as compared to the fall and spring, because what you learn in Malta is that Google Maps is not your friend, especially if you're driving, because it will ask you to go downstairs that you shouldn't drive down. But further than that, the sun is, you've seen me drinking water, stay hydrated, everybody, I'll say it again. The sun is very, very, very strong. So what I find myself doing is moving around when I have to go places in the morning or in the late afternoon. And when I do so, I choose paths that might technically be longer, but keep me in the shadows. I think it's a survival technique that more people should get used to as the world gets warmer. But I would say generally these days, I have a job that's a 4-day work week. So Monday through Thursday, I'm busy running the company. And at the weekends, I will go out. One day I set aside for my photography. And then the other days, I'm usually here working in the building that I'm renting. It's a former bakery in Birgu. It's an old historic building, and it's amazing. But you know, decay is a thing, and you have to take care of things, otherwise they fall apart. And I definitely always enjoy going out with my partner for sushi or dinner. Like we have like a list of places that we go to. I'm not gonna drop any hints here. I think it's part of the joy of experiencing the cuisine in Malta that you really get such a wide variety of. So it's kind of like my week.
Amazing. And so on the weekends, do you feel that there is a strong sense of community amongst digital nomads? Are there active
Absolutely.
meetups? Yeah.
Yeah, there is. One of the most important groups, and I believe, Charles, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the Cocoa Hub was instrumental in providing early insights into what a digital nomad program could look like. And they do have regular activities, regular meetups. They're always super packed. So my advice is to get there early, reserve your seats, and stay longer afterwards, because that's where the really interesting conversations happen. And this is exciting. It's not just the digital nomads that go to these events. Like I've met people from all walks of life from Malta at these kinds of meetups. There's also, you know, English language meetups where they choose a different locale and go there and meet people. And of course, there's, you know, party scenes in Malta where you can just go and get on a boat and drive around in the boat and listen to music and enjoy some beverages with your friends. And you know, there's also the scene quartier, you know, Pachaville. So there's a lot of activities for you know, let's say the 20 to 40 somethings. And I know that there's also groups for the 40 to 60 somethings. I'm not going to out myself saying how old I am, but there are a lot of expat communities to which the digital nomad communities really dovetail. They really fit together. And I would say these days, my current group of friends is a really solid 50-50 mix, right? I hang out over at the Birgu Regatta Club, and I also hang out with the digital nomads and the friends of Cotonera. And you know, there's these different groups, and I'd say, you know, if you want to be alone, you can, but you don't have to be.
Wonderful, because experienced digital nomads do know that the lifestyle can be lonely, especially moving from place to place, losing friends, making friends. So it's great to hear that there is a strong community of remote workers and Maltese citizens who would like to get to know expats available. One more, or actually I have time for a couple more questions, but my next question is going to be, what is one or two things that really surprised you when you moved to Malta? Could be good or questionable.
I was surprised that the beaches were mostly made of stones. I mean, in my mind, I always thought a beach was made of sand, and there are some fantastic beaches of sand in Malta, don't get me wrong. But around here in Birgu, you really only have these kind of stone outcroppings. And I'm a strong swimmer. I grew up on the water. I never get seasick. But what surprised me the most is that people take the ocean for granted. The sea is strong, and every year there's people who end up losing their lives because they're not respecting this awesome power of nature that these islands have. So it was surprising to me that visitors aren't more careful, but maybe that's something that we could work on as a kind of outreach. Hey, welcome to Malta. Don't slip on the rocks, you know? What else surprised me? I really enjoyed and maybe this is going to bridge over to what Russell is saying, but I really enjoyed the archaeological museum in Valletta. I wasn't aware when I first arrived that the actual history of this island was pivotal to Mediterranean politics going back a couple thousand years. I mean, even the Phoenicians, what they were doing, I think we know why they didn't stay here that long, but they were here. And it was just really intriguing to see how this island has had such deep relations with Northern Africa, with Southern Europe, with the Western Ottoman, and you find all of these stories mixed up. And that's kind of why I like learning the language too, because it seems impenetrable from the outside, but there's a lot of really rich cultural history there, and that's exciting.
Yes, the history is incredible. There are so many sites, archaeological sites, museums. It was a naval or a war museum that we visited in Valletta when we were there. The history is so rich in facts and exciting times. So Malta definitely is for a history buff. I agree.
Absolutely.
And so my last question for you is, in your opinion, what makes Malta ideal for digital nomads?
The English language, without a doubt, no questions asked. The fact that you can get around here, you can survive, you can figure everything out, from banking to telecommunication to speaking with the government officials to filing. I lost my laptop, you have to go to the police, you know, this kind of everyday life. It's so critical. I think that's the pivotal reason to choose Malta. and everything else. I mean, the history, the fact that it's using the euro, the fact that it's close to the rest of Europe and Northern Africa and and Turkey. And I think those are all great reasons. But the simple fact that you can get here and hit the ground running, if you're competent in the English language, it makes it in Europe, well, in Schengen, unique.
Mhm. I agree. I agree. And sorry, just one more question. Because Wi-Fi is so important for digital nomads and staying connected, how do you find the Wi-Fi connection in Malta? Can you find a cafe or restaurant where you can open your laptop? Or
Yeah, you can. My company is involved in the security industry, so I'm not permitted to use public Wi-Fi's on my corporate devices. So I end up using just the Melita 5G.
okay,
But
so
I know it's out there. So
great. Okay, so you with your mobile phone, you have good connection. You can use a hotspot from your phone.
everywhere. Actually, the coverage in Malta is so good. I was wishing I had it when I was on the train in Germany going from Hamburg to Berlin. Literally, there were moments where I didn't have any connection, and I was like, "Where am I? This is the 21st century."
Amazing. Okay, thank you so much, Daniel, for sharing your experience and getting us excited about Malta for digital nomads.
My pleasure.
All right, and our last speaker today is Russell Muscat from Heritage Malta, and he has exciting visuals and information to share with us about the country of Malta, its history, and things to do. Russell,
Yes.
let's take it away.
Thank you for the invite, and as you mentioned, I'm going to split my presentation into two. The first one is going to be a video, because I think seeing is believing, and I wanted to share with you what the island offers and what Heritage Malta does in this respect. After that, I will tell you a little bit more about Maltese history and what you can do on the island when you're over here. So let's start off with the video. And
an archipelago at the very epicenter of the Mediterranean, coveted, colonialized, resilient, and resourceful. In the annals of time, peaceful Stone Age settlers bequeathed a Neolithic legacy unparalleled elsewhere on the planet. Successive waves of invasions and settlements by seafaring entrepreneurs and empire builders have interwoven a fascinating, multi-hued tapestry of language, tradition, architecture, and culture. From the sweep of the Sentinel limestone ramparts encircling the Baroque Pearl of Valletta to the subterranean chambers of the Hypogean necropolis, no other country in the world contains as much concentrated history per square kilometre. Today, the Maltese Islands are an independent, forward-looking European nation, a peaceful geopolitical powerhouse with stable economic relations shaped by an outstanding past. As guardians of over 8,000 years of history, Heritage Malta is the national agency for museums, conservation practice, and cultural heritage. Created by the Cultural Heritage Act of 2002, the agency proudly manages over 90 museums and landmarks, national monuments, and underwater sites. With a portfolio including archaeological sites, Baroque alberges and palaces, catacombs, forts, national landscapes, and UNESCO-listed Neolithic temples, Heritage Malta is the face of the Maltese Islands. Every generation, monument, artifact, language, specimen, and celebration has a story to share. Heritage Malta ensures that these stories are preserved for posterity and are made accessible for everyone to experience and enjoy. Conservation departments dedicated to paintings and polychrome sculptures, wood and furniture, metal, ceramics, glass, stone, textiles and paper conserve and restore the past so that it is enjoyed by present and future generations. Our diagnostic science laboratories use cutting-edge technologies such as scanning electron microscopy, diffraction and microfluorescence analytical systems, and infrared technology to ensure the protection of the national collection. A dedicated team of curators, architects, project managers, carpenters, metalsmiths, masons, and technical staff oversee the design, planning, implementation, and maintenance of all infrastructural projects undertaken by the agency. These currently include multi-million restoration and rehabilitation projects, both EU and locally funded, such as the Grand Master's Palace, the Main Guard, the Malta Maritime Museum, and Villa Guardamangia, once the residence of Princess Elizabeth. Meanwhile, below cobalt blue waters, shipwrecks dating back to 680 BC, aircrafts, submarines, and battleships from the First and Second World Wars stud the seabed off the coast of the Maltese Islands. The Underwater Cultural Heritage Unit is the curator for a uniquely well-preserved historic resource that is global and belongs to all humankind. Tracing its formal origins back to 1903 and with extensive resources at its disposal, Heritage Malta is the expert to count on in the heritage sector. From prehistoric caves to subterranean passageways, geology to ethnography, from the management of 7 World Heritage Sites to industrial history, there is no stone we leave unturned. The registration of heraldic coat of arms is but one of the agency's many outreach services. Heritage Malta is the leader in the field of cultural heritage and archaeological consultancy, offering archaeological monitoring, excavation, surveying, and photogrammetry. The national agency digitalizes the national collection and records Malta's intangible heritage. In-house multimedia productions, virtual reality experiences, webinars and documentaries bring culture to the masses online and in the comfort and safety of their homes. Heritage Malta is at the forefront in positioning the islands as a cultural destination and also exclusive locations for international conferences, corporate events, seminars, weddings, and location shoots. Yesterday's culinary encounters become today's sensory experiences with our Taste History initiative. Seasonal, locally sourced products and archival research provide an authentic sense of terroir for those attending our cook-alongs and historical meals. Heritage Malta's publishing arms produce a wider range of didactic resources for educators and students, elegant monographs, reading and activity books for children, e-publications, and high-quality printed merchandise for our museum shops. Prestigious and experimental exhibitions, public lectures, artist residencies, and interactive curatorial interpretation help further illuminate our historical legacy and push the frontiers of what is possible. Meanwhile, the collaborative participation in international exhibitions serves as a platform for Maltese culture overseas. Hands-on activities and resources based on the local educational curriculum target children of different age groups as part of organised school visits or as an online service. Family values, inclusion, and both physical and intellectual accessibility for everyone are core tenets at the heart of our cultural brand. Together with community outreach programs organised in conjunction with Heritage Malta's children and senior passport schemes, our event calendar is dotted with educational fun days out for the family, including open days, reenactments, boat tours, and heritage trails. In an era of globalization, Heritage Malta is the guardian and champion of a nation's identity and the repository of its collective memory. It aims to foster and encourage cultural diversity, respect, and accessibility for everyone, everywhere. Heritage Malta promises to safeguard and ensure a future for a heritage which is part of us, and to inspire generations to come.
So basically, that was like a taster of what Heritage Malta has to offer and what we are as an agency. Heritage Malta is the national agency that is responsible for conservation practice and cultural heritage, and we are also responsible of conserving the national collection, which runs, the national collection runs into millions of items that we have in the collections, and only 1/10 of that will make its way to the actual museum. The other stuff, we try to organize events and organize exchanges, let's say, in order to be able to bring out what we have in our cupboards and according to the different perspectives. I just wanted to tell you that as an agency, we are entrusted with a number of heritage sites. There are still more heritage sites which one can find for free in the open. So if you just go around in cliff sides and in particular areas, you are going to encounter heritage firsthand. But those items that are given to Heritage Malta and those sites that are entrusted to Heritage Malta, obviously we are doing our best to interpret them and make them more accessible in various ways. When it comes to cultural heritage, there is a big diversity of items that you find on the island, from archaeological sites to art, to maritime, to natural history, to military history. So as Daniel was saying before, I mean, and also if you look at Maltese history, we've been conquered a number of times. All civilizations, let's say, around the Mediterranean, passed through Malta and left their identity over here. So there is something to offer to everyone. Maybe if you noticed in the video that I just showed you over here, we are saying that we manage about 90 sites, 50 on above ground, 40 underneath the water. There is a rich cultural history underneath the waters, and Malta has one of the best destinations when it comes to diving on wrecks and the cultural stuff that you find underneath the water. We work with Malta Tourism Authority in order to give permits for people to be able to go on these wrecks. There are other wrecks which are protected by law for conservation purposes, but the diversity of items on the island is very big. We also manage World Heritage Sites. In order for it to be a World Heritage Site, it has to be a unique thing in the world. A World Heritage is the designation for places on Earth that are of outstanding universal value to humanity. And as such, in Malta, we have 3 nomenclatures, which is Valletta as a city, the hypogeum. The hypogeum is so important that and so unique that it's given a nomenclature on its own. And then you have 6 temples which are grouped up for a World Heritage nomenclature. These are open to the general public, but obviously, I mean, places like the hypogeum are more restricted, and one has to think beforehand before actually wanting to visit and plan ahead in order to get tickets. The other sites are open to the general public. We offer various, let's say, ticket options. If you're here for 1 day, if you're here for 3 days, if you're here for 1 year, if you're here for 3 years, if you're here for 5 years, you can have different ticket options with different options also, including events that Heritage Malta organizes itself. Apart from that, it is important that we talk about the services that we offer. Apart from opening the museums to the general public, Heritage Malta now is getting more into the entrepreneurial spirit, let's say. Museums are leaping into new business models with entrepreneurial spirit. So as you saw in the video, we open up for weddings, we open up for product launches, we open up for conferences. So imagine coming to Malta, you organize a conference here in Malta and you're actually in the middle of a fort where the CHOGM meeting was held. Like CHOGM meeting is the Commonwealth head of states organization. So, you know, most of the world leaders were in that place. We are venturing in areas such as, for example, the film industry. If you noticed correct during the video, there was part of Jurassic Park. You could see dinosaurs running in the middle of Valletta. That is because Malta is a film set, and Heritage Malta offers a lot of, let's say, background to these film sets. I don't know. I mean, this year, for example, we had Jurassic Park, we had Napoleon. At the moment, Gladiator 2 is being filmed. And Malta is always a film set. Game of Thrones was the first season of Game of Thrones was shot in Malta. So a lot of people come also over to Malta in order to be able to visit these unique places and be able to match to what they saw on their screens. This is done in the spirit of sustainability. We cannot depend on the government for money. So we are trying to venture out to different events, to different possibilities that are open to the general public. And I'm saying this because I think these are items which can be experienced also by digital nomads, and also can be services that can be used by digital nomads, especially if they're going to organize things on the island or giving different perspective to the stuff that they are doing. Just to give you an example, we have a program called Taste History, where throughout our studies and our research, we come with different anecdotes about different things. So, for example, we research the wine lists, for example, and have the wine lists of the grandmasters, and realized that Malta was so connected that grandmasters were bringing wine from South Africa in the 16 and 1700s. So this concept of this New World wine is fairly old in its conception as well. Through food also, we realized how Malta was connected. On the island, we had certain items and certain material that we did a particular, for example, event where we found a letter of Gianfrancesco Bella writing to Voltaire and telling him, listen, the poor people over here, the people that are going on boats over here, are eating what you are offering to your friends over there. So there is chocolate over here, there is coffee over here, there is spice coming from the east over here before it ever reached the mainland. And all this research is helping us to be able to recreate these meals and explain history through the five senses. So we are verging out on this type of activities, which we offer to our general public in certain events, or we offer it also as particular backgrounds in particular events. For example, you have a conference in Malta, and you can actually cater for this kind of material. We have a publishing sector because that is important for us. in order to provide different, let's say, spectrum of information that we have in hand, from actual guidebooks to catalogs of particular exhibitions to books about particular themes and items. One of the latest things that we've been doing is digitization. I think this is very important because it is giving us different possibilities of explaining what Malta is and how we can actually reach out to different concepts of history itself, but not just history, but also accessibility. So, for example, if the hypogeum is restricted in itself because of conservation issues, through digitization, we have a 3D model where people can actually fly through the hypogeum. And if you suffer from claustrophobia, for example, you will be able to do certain programs in order to be able to visit a place which physically you cannot do. There are certain areas which are restricted to the general public. So through 3D rendering and 3D mapping, we'll be able to take you where you cannot physically go because of these restrictions. So these are some of the few items that we are venturing out and actually doing because we believe that it is important that we open up, not for, I mean, museums and sites are not for people who intend to go to museums. We want to open up these sites to everyone and to different kind of audiences, from people who do not attend museums. So we create events for people to be able to enjoy, let's say, these perspectives, different type of accessibility, from people who are able to do a whole visit to other people who have different accessibility issues, not just physical, but also there's a spectrum of things that we cater for. We provide educational programs, not just for the curricula and for the cultural curricula that you learn at school, but also families can enjoy. Whilst you're at the museum, you'll be able to enjoy particular programs that you can do together. And it's edutainment. You're enjoying yourself and at the same time learning. So these are different possibilities that we can offer. We hope that the people who are here in Malta and benefiting from these schemes will be able also to enjoy this kind of let's say services that we offer. If there is anything that you would like to ask, this is my email address. I suggest that you also go into our website, which is www.heritagemalta.mt, because over there you can find a lot more of information about the different packages that we offer, to the different services that you find, to cultural programs that you actually find on a monthly basis. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Russell. That was so informative, and it got me super excited about Malta, especially with the history and the food. I must say the cuisine in Malta is fantastic. So we just have a couple more minutes left of our webinar today. I have been going through the questions in the Q&A chat, and thank you so much to Residency Malta Agency for being so diligent and answering each and every one of those. So since we have a hardworking team answering those questions behind the scenes, I just want to ask our guests if there is anything else you would like to add to let our attendees know about the Nomad Residence Permit and being a digital nomad in Malta before we end.
So if I may intervene, first of all, I would like to thank you for this opportunity and also thank Daniel and Russell for their interventions. I think we all gave a lot of information about both the program, the experience Daniel shared with us, and also information about what our country has to offer. Obviously, from our side, we were also very eager to welcome more and more digital nomads to our country. We urge all interested individuals to reach out to us through email nomad.residencymalta@gov.mt, and we would be more than happy to give all the necessary information for them and clarify any questions which they may have. One thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about the process is the fact that the application process is quite fast. So we promise to give a reply, and a reply, not a reply to emails, but a reply to the application, or whether they have been accepted or not, within a 30-day period. In reality, sometimes we are even quicker than that. Obviously, it all depends on whether we have all the information that we need to analyze the application. If we have all the information in hand, sort of, we would be able to give a reply, and our turnaround time would be much faster. So that's all from my side. We hope to welcome more and more nomads to our island.
Wonderful. Thank you. Daniel, do you have anything to add about living in Malta?
Two things. Just try it. Just come and visit. If you can get a visa, try it. Get out of your hometown and get around the world and see what's out there. When you do get to Malta, go straight to the Valletta Archaeology Museum and buy yourself a year membership. You will not regret it. I did that, and I think I saved like probably €200 because I'm a junkie for that kind of heritage stuff. And drink lots of water and stay moisturized.
Thank you. And Russell, is there anything else you would like to add from Heritage Malta?
First of all, thank you, Daniel, for the advertising. No, I mean, thank you for inviting us over here. And yes, we have a lot of things to offer. And I hope that all the participants that are viewing us do as Daniel said, get on the plane and come over to Malta. We have a lot of things to offer. So hope to see you soon. If you need anything, just let us know. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you again for joining us this afternoon, to my guests and to our viewers. You can always find more information from the Residency Malta agency, and we will be sending up a follow-up email with a recording of this webinar and more information about how you can apply for the Nomad Residence Permit and live in Malta for up to 3 years. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you again. Bye-bye.